Okay, thanks everybody for joining us on a V2VG Family Through Service, a V2VG video podcast. You should probably write that down at some point because I want to make it clean.
You know, well, since you've switched it to V2VG, you've been more successful. And,
I'm getting better.
You know what it is I think a lot of big words, and when we answer the phone and whatnot, we're always like veterans to veterans group first.
It throws me for a loop.
So, yeah.
Our office is thrashed, so that's kind of putting a brain splinter in my head, too.
Yes, we have so much stuff that has been donated to us as far as so it's the old generation, but it's almost all of it is still newly tagged.
Brand new with tags, last generation gear. Army PT gear. At least $6,000 or more dollars worth of PT gear, and that's if we sell each article at $10 a piece. I mean,
yeah,
and it's obviously worth more, but just to move it. I mean, we did our inventory yesterday. We had over 300 pairs of pants, new with tags, PT pants, different sizes. So,
and that's with a few going missing to personal
fell off the
houses.
Truck.
But I mean, that says it all. I mean, we spent a good 2.5 hours checking sizes and counting and folding.
And now we're working on the PT jackets. The pants are cool because they're not marked, so they're easier for us to donate. We're going to donate some to the Tyler Blaine House, which is the homeless shelter here in Lancaster, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Right. The Liberty House, which is a transitional house for veterans in Manchester. We gave some to the local VFW. And so we're giving some to some select clients this year and their children. And this is all thanks to Sergeant Major Bruno, retired from the Whitefield JROTC program.
Yeah, which is great because
an unexpected donation just out of the blue.
And we're always looking to kind of dive into another community aspect, and we have not reached the JROTC program
so
yet
they reached out to us,
which is really cool.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing to do. But shifting gears, we had a conversation off camera. Actually yesterday, I think, when we were doing all the PT pants and sizing them and just double checking the sizes and categorizing them.
It was like being in the Navy boot camp,
just folding laundry.
but we were able to converse, which we do.
We could speak. So you had some insights. So if I had to rate you as the type of faith you had, I personally would say you're an agnostic, which is you believe in a God or a higher power, but you don't have a specific one that you fully commit to.
Yeah, I think that's, pretty accurate. I believe there are powers to be that are greater than myself, greater than us as human beings.
Right. And that's what I would rate you as, an agnostic.
But as you know, I'm always inquisitive about learning new aspects of the different types of denominations of Christianity and things.
Yes. You do ask me questions from time to time, and things like that, and I answer the best I can. But you had some thoughts, and you put them to paper because you called it a monologue.
Well, yeah, it's like nothing fancy, right? It's just pretty much kind of thoughts on a basic concept.
Yeah.
And so a big hot topic in a way is faith in the education system, and it
is. It's kind of like a simmering topic, right?
It's
always in the back burner.
Yeah. And I think that's because the transgender has like taken over that.
It seems when all the big button issues, the big issues sort of sway out, the faith in schools, the Bible school, that kind of rises back up to the surface. It's always there.
Yeah, and I think, so anyway, I kind of wrote down my thoughts as far as how I felt faith is and what education is and how there's overlapping parts to each, you know. But I did get the dictionary definition
of faith
of faith and education.
Okay.
So and it was on the internet, so it has to be true.
That's the rules I live by, for sure.
And I tried to grab the one that was the simplest format of a definition. So
that's fair.
For faith, they have the complete trust in someone or something, which sounds as close to faith as what
It's pretty
you're gonna
KISS,
get,
right?
you know?
KISS is keep it simple, stupid. That's a army or military acronym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then education is both the act of teaching of knowledge to someone and receiving knowledge from someone. So it's
Okay.
a minimum of a two-person ordeal. There's a teaching and a learning aspect
Component to it. Yeah. All right. That's fair.
So one of the things I mention as an example of to show how they go hand in hand is I mention being when I was in the Marine Corps and you're going through boot camp and stuff. If you've never shot guns before, that aspect is really important, the safety of it and all that. So
right.
as a recruit, you have to have faith in your drill instructors to teach you the right thing.
In the right order, the right way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to you're going to hurt somebody or yourself.
Exactly. Right. So you have to have faith that they know what they're talking about, but you also have to have faith in yourself and being able to understand what they're talking about as well. So there's a little bit of both, and
that's fair.
And I'm trying to do it in such a way that it's not a religious aspect. I just want.
So you're talking about a non-theological definition of faith.
Yeah.
You're talking about a general definition of faith. Yeah, that's fair.
And so, after you have the educational part, you have the application. So So you have your application of shooting a rifle, and if you don't have faith in yourself, your body, all the things that were taught are not going to be done successfully.
Sure.
So I'll even go through the list here.
Well, why don't you read it? Or paraphrase it?
Yeah. Okay, so faith in my mind for understanding the instruction, and then faith in my body. Specifically my eyes, hands, lungs, fingers, and complete body for the positions. So if you don't have faith in your eyes, you're not even going to be looking down at a specific target.
Right.
And that's clearly not a good thing because,
who
could
knows
be shooting somebody else's target or whatever.
Like you got 80 you got 80 rounds on target. That's amazing. When you only issued 40.
Yeah. So the barrel could be facing, swaying in any direction and possibly flagging people, which is when you cross the barrel across another human being.
That's a big no-no. That's a big no-no for gun safety, especially in the military.
Yeah, and this is also true for your hands. So not having faith in your hands and your fingers, being able to hold the rifle the right way, being able to have complete trigger control, all those things, if you don't do those and have faith that your body can do those things, your rifle's going to be jumping all over the place. Excuse me.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you're saying that you need faith in your ability to receive the instruction and to physically apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people have a hard time with that, and that's why they do the instruction with rifles, for instance, in bite-sized pieces, in stages and phases.
And over a long period of time, I think we spent...
It's not just typically, it's not just one day, all the instruction, okay, you got that, we're good, on to the next.
Yeah, I think we spent 2 weeks or so at the rifle range. So the first week was pretty much all the fundamentals and aiming at a barrel.
When I was in basic training back in '97, dating myself, they actually had us put a dime on the front sight post for trigger control. We had to dry fire the weapon without the dime falling off.
And again, right? I mean, it's being able to.
If you haven't done that, okay, if you have an AR-15 platform with iron sights,
yeah,
right, put a dime on the front sight post and balance it there and dry fire your weapon. It'll be fine. And try to keep the dime on the front, keep it from falling. It's not as easy as you think.
Yeah, because it's not
unsupported.
It's not just squeezing the trigger; it's the follow through of releasing it,
right.
And it's so much more intricate than what the movies make it look like, right?
I mean, the movies, they're running and shooting a zombie in the head while running. Yeah, okay, these people are not trained.
I mean, even the
It
best
makes
of the
for great
best
TV.
couldn't do that.
I mean,
on a
it
realistic
makes for
schedule.
fantastic television.
Yeah.
But realistically, if you're not firing hundreds of rounds a day, you're not even going to come close to being able to make 20 headshots in a row.
Yeah,
while
running.
moving and while they're moving.
Yeah, right. I mean,
From
it-
100. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress.
But,
But yeah,
uh,
you need to have faith in your body to receive the instruction and apply the instruction correctly.
But a lot of it is also having faith that whoever is teaching you is teaching you the right information.
Oh yeah, I forget.
You know?
I mean, of course, you need to have faith that your drill instructor is correct.
And I speak of it more so as a newbie with rifles because someone who's been hunting their whole life has their own tricks and things that they
Right.
use and
Yeah.
are almost impossible to break. But if you take someone who's never used a weapon like I had, and if you don't have faith that they're teaching you the right thing, the probability of you doing something very massively unsafe is very high.
I actually heard a few people say that those who have had a lot of experience with, in this instance, rifle weapons, or even handguns, if you're in a MOS that uses handguns, those who've had a lot of experience with that tend to be harder to instruct because they have to unteach them, basically, unlearn them their bad habits and reteach them the military ways.
Which is almost impossible if you're looking
it's
at.
tough.
But I mean, there is a difference between avid hunters and just shooters.
This is true.
Hunters have a closer construct of what you're taught in boot
Yeah,
camp.
you're right.
If you're just a shooter at targets, you don't have any of those same basic skills.
Typically not.
Because you're
Yeah.
shooting at a still paper target from whatever distance you make
Yeah.
yourself, and
It's a very
and
static
things.
type thing.
But-
yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that application of faith in your instructor and yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so that's like the simplest way I could break down faith and education overlapping. But what we talked about yesterday was specifically, about faith in a God,
Theological faith.
and education with it. And with that, I would point, if you have blind faith to a religion or to an individual who is a preacher or the head of a church, that's where you end up having a lot of these extreme groups, Jim Jones and things like that, where it's not that the people following aren't intelligent, but what's happening is,
Or well-meaning,
well, yeah,
particularly. Yeah.
but they have such blind faith to the individual that they're not looking into the knowledge of the book. And this case would be the Bible, because he was, a Christian-based type of situation.
Well, whatever his interpretation of the Bible was, they just took that and said, okay, that must be right.
Yeah, and that's where it's sad, because you have, and same thing with the Charlie Manson. Like, you have people
Yeah.
who are decent people, well educated, could be doctors or whatever, who are blindly following someone, and then that leads down to a very catastrophic situation.
Well, in those two instances, very literally.
And there's so many, right? I mean, at least every 10 years you find out about some quote unquote Christian cult, or
it's the Christian Bible can be manipulated and used in a way by psycho and sociopaths
absolutely
to mislead people and into doing some pretty horrific things
And
to
they're-
themselves and others,
and their
as
target
history
audience,
has seen.
And their target audience, they're smart. A lot of these people know the right type of person to go after to become followers. They don't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know cult or any even an actual religious group would just choose me to blindly follow, because
They'd be like,
I'm
well,
a rebel at heart.
We'll
anyway,
go to somebody else.
yeah, but it's funny you mentioned the Christian Bible and how many breakdowns, because to me that's kind of the opposite, where you're having all this education into the Bible, but you don't have a complete faith into that one true God and Jesus, because if you did, you wouldn't have all these breakdowns of denominations where you would have different rules and different things like that.
Yeah,
and,
it's tough, and Jesus says he wants all of his followers to be one, and when I checked when I was in school for theology, there was some 40,000 different Protestant denominations and counting.
And that, to me, that's more education and less faith, right? Because now you're starting to overanalyze and pick and choose which things you want to
it's
follow.
Tough. It's tough, and
and I'm not saying right now. I want to make sure I'm not saying that any one is wrong or right at all. I'm just trying to
looking at the numbers.
point into the direction of how important it is to have both. Education and faith.
In my faith in Catholicism, in a lot of mainstream Christian denominations, faith and reason go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say reason is sort of analogous to education. It's got to be reasonable faith. You can't have faith in something that is extraordinary unless it's something that your religion is teaching. So my faith, I do blindly follow some tenets of my faith that are mysteries.
Yes.
But that's because my faith has taught us that, and there's evidence for it, and without getting into a thing.
Proven or disproven.
Right. And so,
science,
but it's not that, and it's been established for 1,000 years and stuff. The problem is, for me, is when you get a new interpretation of something, and people are discussing it, and they take it and run in different directions with it without breaking it down and to find out the reasons why.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the things. Well, for many reasons, I have a lot of respect for you. But as far as this topic is concerned, one of the two things I really enjoy about our relationship, our friendship, and our day-to-day, crosses of paths is, one, you've never one time been preachy to me or even showed any religious judgmental behavior.
Like, oh God, no, that's not my job. Yeah.
There are times you've been like, Chuck, that was a really stupid thing to do, but that's more of a common sense type of thing than a religious belief.
Yeah, I would never. Yeah, right.
But the other thing I really appreciate about you is we've talked in length about how you had fallen away from the church, and it was when your wife was bringing your firstborn to church that you really dove into almost trying to pick apart every aspect of what you could. And so
I wanted to know why.
Yeah,
and I wanted to know why I was supposed to believe what I was told to believe, and I wanted to. And it was almost out of spite. I said, Jen's not bringing my son to church without me, but I'm not going to have him go to church that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out why, because at the time I was far away from Christianity.
Well, yeah.
Never mind Catholicism specifically, but Christianity in general. And so I did. I studied very hard for a couple of years and ended up going to college for theology and everything else. But I really studied the why, and I have I have a whole library of books that I've read a couple times, and I'm satisfied with the answers. But the thing is, I was able to become satisfied with the answers from my knowledge. But I mentioned yesterday there's a saying that goes around. I think it's Sheed and Ward who said, and there's other people have said it too.
Yep.
If you love God, you love Jesus, or you love God, and no matter what your religion is, and you don't try to learn more about God, right? You don't try to learn more about your faith and these things. You're just sitting blindly with it.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I'll be spoon-fed my religious beliefs, and I'm just happy as a clam, and I'm not going to try to learn more. How can you say you love God or anyone if you don't make the attempt to learn more about that person or God or whatever it is? How can you say you love your spouse when you want to know nothing about them other than what you knew when you were dating. You like don't ever talk to me about what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color, where you grew up, who your parents are.
Yeah.
Just I love you from what I know, and I don't want to know anything else.
Well,
how can you say you love God if you don't want to learn more about Him?
We had that conversation where, you know, I was getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps, and my wife at the time was not in the picture, and I was, you know, dating, and I had a girl after only a couple weeks or so say something about, oh, well, I love you, or I'm falling in love with you, and immediately I'm like, what kind of music do I like? You know, like, when's my birthday? And if you can't answer those of the simplest questions of a person in your life, then how can you say, yeah, right? You know, especially when you're talking about an intimate relationship. Like, we're not talking about just being boys. Like, you know, I know your birthday because it's St. Patrick's Day, because we are very close.
St. Patrick's Day is easy to remember, but if you say you love somebody and you mean it, you should at least know some things about them.
You know, like, what's my middle name, or
especially
I know your middle name.
I'm not going to say it, but I know your middle name.
Depending on the intimacy, right? I mean, we can proclaim our love towards each other as friends, and I'm not going to have nearly the information and knowledge on you and your life that Jen does.
Of course not,
because she loves you in a far more intimate and
sure.
Overall,
she's my spouse, and she's known me longer.
So,
but so when you take that step with faith, when you can blindly follow your religion to a point, and then you have to bring in that education, that reason, and say, now I'm going to use my knowledge and learn something about my faith, or faith in whatever, God, or faith in the Marine Corps, or faith in shooting or whatever, and learn why these drills exist. Why are they implemented? Why is it dangerous to flag somebody? What's the point of putting a dime on the front sight post and squeezing the trigger for it not to fall off? Why do I need trigger discipline? Why? And then pick those apart. Find out the reason why. Because the answers, 99.9% of the time, are there.
Oh, yeah. You know,
and it's so easy to find the answers nowadays because we have these computers in our hands.
In our pockets, right?
It's not just for cat memes.
Yeah, it's
Mom.
Cat videos.
But it's the
true.
information is there, and it's readily available.
And, you know...
I highly encourage people... When my kids ask the question why, I love it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know the answer, you bet your ass I look it up.
You know, and I think it's... You've... As a parent, you've come across times where your children themselves have questioned their own faith or your faith, and at that point, you know, as a parent, you have to say, listen, you have to go do your research. You have to find out what it means to you. But if you're just blindly following a faith, you're just going to be like, you do it because I say so, and that's not the way.
It works. That is the reason when my kids are young.
When
they're before the age of reason, they go to church because I say so.
Well, yes.
When they're older, they go to church because they have chosen to or chosen not to. And
it's funny because I don't want to make this whole video about religion, because we stay, as professionally as veterans group, we stay away from identifying as an organization to any religious affiliate.
And that's important to mention. Chuck is saying that veterans, so my faith and Chuck's faith have no bearing on how we choose whom to assist or whom not to assist, or the levels of assistance,
or even our board,
or our board,
because we have people who are Jewish, we have people
agnostic, Catholic, Wiccan, even.
Yeah, and other people who just kind of haven't found their way or whatever.
Yeah. It's really we really take pride in the fact, V2VG, that we are not a religious-based organization or political-based organization. We have our private beliefs.
Very true.
And we are allowed our private beliefs, but we do our best not to allow them to bleed into our decision-making process. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, well, except for those Portuguese people, we don't like them much.
I'm half Portuguese. So.
The bad half.
The bad half. So if my grandmother's watching, I'm sorry.
But in order to not stay completely on Christian religion aspect, and go back to education,
yep.
A lot of people, specifically Republicans, are continue to push the Bible in school and Christian
the evangelical
teachings,
conservative wing of the Republican Party, especially.
So when you look at kids follow blindly probably until they're in 3rd or 4th grade.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
That's
and then they
when start to question things and even be rebellious. And so now it's really important once you get to those levels, if you're a teacher or any type of someone helping, is you have to be able to have your own knowledge in order for them to have faith in you, and you need to welcome and praise any type of questions. And it's not a bad thing to be wrong. So I mean, as an instructor,
you're right. It's not bad to be wrong. It's bad to perpetuate the wrongness. If you don't know, look it up.
Yeah, like, hey, no, this is what I was taught so many years ago, and
I'm not going to try to find out if the information
right?
changed. And if somebody proves you wrong, if it's a child, they prove you wrong, be an adult about it and say, thank you for educating me.
And
that'll go a long way into building respect.
And as parents, we should also encourage our children to challenge authority in a respectful way.
In a respectful way,
which I know we both do. We're like, listen, if you feel your teacher or your principal or a kid higher in grade than you is spouting off at the mouth, and it seems like it doesn't make sense, it's okay to challenge them as long as you're respectful. Don't be like, hey, fucker, Mrs. So-and-so, you're wrong. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, because that's going to be... Then, as a parent, we have to levy consequences, not based on the veracity, the truthfulness of their statement.
Yes.
But on their attitude of their challenge.
Yeah, which...
Because then it's like, I have to punish you, but I don't want to, but I have to.
Yeah.
Because socially, you fucked up.
Well, yeah, and because it's a different thing if, 2 adults are going at it, or even 2 kids are going at it and they're getting heated. That is understandable. But as a young person, you cannot be being that hostile towards somebody of a senior.
Right, and it's definitely not... And my kids have this issue, too. That, you have to be respectful to somebody in authority. Whether you respect them or like them or not, it's just like in the military. You have to respect the rank, but not the person.
Yeah, exactly,
As it were.
And we have some commonalities as parents and as individuals, even though we have certain things that, we don't necessarily completely believe in together, which is fun.
And that's normal. That's totally fine. Yeah, that's totally fine. Like anybody else.
So one of the things we talked about yesterday, which I thought was a great middle ground, right? Because we're always talking about, especially hot topics, right? We're always talking about instead of all this way or all that way, what is the compromise? There has to be a way to reach a compromise. So
ideally,
religion in school. How can we do that? Is we talked about it as if it was an elective, and maybe each quarter the students could learn 2 different types of religion. That's 8 religions a year a student could possibly learn the basics of, and then they can start to choose from their experiences their experiences in their family life and things of that matter.
I agree. If you're going to teach religion in school, it should be a separate class, not, and if you're going to teach Christianity in school, then you have to offer the other religions, and it should be an elective.
Plus, you look at things nowadays where things have shifted, and it's okay to, let's say you're doing, you're doing 2 different types of Christianity. Maybe you're doing one Protestant, one Catholic, whatever.
Sure.
And you do, a Muslim or a Hindu and all these. Well, now Muslim's so big, it would be okay to teach that as a whole quarter instead of a half a quarter.
Sure.
Because of the importance of the here and now, right? The current events.
And that's a malleable thing, but it should definitely be, if you're going to teach one, you have to offer the others.
And
I remember being in school and not going over the Bible, but for sure going over Islam in depth.
Yeah.
And that was back in the late 90s. So even then I remember thinking, this isn't really fair.
So,
so even now, imagine now with the wokeness, I think the education system needs to to try to balance things out.
Well, there absolutely shouldn't be specific politics being taught by teachers unless it's a political science class.
Unless it's a political science class.
And the same thing with religion. I think that if your job is to teach world history, teach world history. Don't go on about the Quran or I'm sorry for the ignorance, the
Torah.
book.
Yeah,
You know, like,
unless it's specifically related.
Yeah.
But there was a meme, of course, on Facebook, and I actually liked it very much. It said if your grade school students know what political party about teacher, if they know what political party you're affiliated with, you're failing as a teacher. They shouldn't know that. Stay in your lane.
And even as a parent, that should be similar, because it's okay if they know where you may lie, but encouraging them once again to educate themselves on
we do that with our kids. Our kids say, oh, Obama this or Biden that or Trump this and Trump Bush that. Like, okay. And I kind of chuckle because our kids, it's like, you guys don't even, you're literally being spoon-fed this information. But they always ask us, who did you vote for? And I say, I voted for who I wanted to vote for. Who would you vote for and why? And that kind of stops the thing, because they're like, well, I don't know enough about him. And I said, that's the perfect answer. If you don't know, then find out, because you can find out. There's plenty of websites out there that kind of categorize in a nutshell what these people believe and what they stand for as far as their knowledge. Don't just have faith in a political party.
Well, yeah, and
I vote Republican because I'm a Republican. That's bullshit. Same thing with Democrats, same thing with Libertarian, whatever.
And that's pretty much the very last paragraph I have here, is that if we follow a political view on faith alone, then we will never know what we are signing our future generations up for.
Well, I mean, think about it. The Republican Party of today is not the Republican Party of our grandparents, and the Democratic Party of today, which is highly radicalized liberal Democratic Party, the Democratic Party of today is not the Democratic Party of, say, JFK.
Well, and I've mentioned this to my kids, is like, 20, 30 years ago, both sides would be able to agree on certain aspects of things, and now
both sides were filled with far more moderates. Today, both the Democratic and the Democratic and Republican side are filled with far more extremists on both sides, and they can't agree on shit.
Like,
hardly. It's like, oh, you're a Republican, you must be a conservative evangelical. No, I'm not. Oh, you're a Democrat, you must be a flaming liberal. No, I'm not. It's like, there is a range in there,
yes.
But people who are moderate Democrats are either very quiet or far fewer than
the same with
the crazy liberal, and the same thing with Republicans.
Same
thing with feminists. The modern feminists are far removed from the classical feminist movement.
So
to blindly following. Well, I want to be a feminist because my mother was a feminist. She probably wasn't the same type.
Chances are, right? And so the last sentence I put together, or last two, if instead we took each individual topic and learned about them, and then chose the particular candidate that matches up with the most things we already are aligned with, not picking the candidate first and
based
saying because
party.
of that.
Yeah.
And especially with all the hot topics, do your research, educate yourself, find out what you believe in, whether it's abortion. Okay, so maybe you believe in the heartbeat rule, maybe you believe in a person at conception, whatever your beliefs are. Then align that with the politician, and not say, okay, well, my parent was a Republican, so I'm a Republican, so I'm going to follow Donald Trump. Well,
that's ridiculous.
But what does Donald Trump really believe in? Most of these politicians don't believe in the thing that they're pushing.
They believe
they're
in who
doing
gives them the money.
They're pushing an agenda.
It's the agenda. Yeah.
And the only hot topic I believe that should never really be chosen by the candidate is taxes. I think both local and federal taxes, as these come up, they should be reviewed and understood by by us everyday people before we say,
that's something.
you know.
That's a taxes are a bitch. Talk about confusing.
Well, yeah, and you talk about, like, you know, he's got Biden's got the $3.5 trillion thing, and I don't know if anybody's really broke down what's in this package. You know,
like Pelosi said back in the day, we have to pass it before we can find out what's in it.
And that's
because that makes perfect sense.
That's the opposite of how we should be. We shouldn't be putting our faith in, because, to be honest,
if
both
that's
sides,
not blind faith in something, I don't know what is.
To be completely honest, both sides of the political party are of that 1%. So for either one of them to be like, oh, well, we're for the work. No, you're not. We haven't had a working class president probably since Abraham Lincoln.
I was going to say, since Abe Lincoln.
You know?
and that was a little while ago.
And, you know, and that's with candlelight in a library and, like, on his own dime. And, you know. But
he was a wrestler, you know, a successful one.
It would not surprise me at all.
He was a big motherfucker.
Yeah. But
so
the whole goal of this, please don't take this and be like, oh, well, you know, they're talking about Christianity and this and that. That's not the case.
That's a part of it.
Look at it as knowing how to have faith in yourself, as well as the informative people around you, but also always be looking to increase your knowledge. Be hungry for that.
Be hungry for your knowledge, and I would second that, piggyback off that, as they say in the military. Have faith in your ability to find out the truth. Have faith in your ability to find out the truth, because the answers are there. Look for them.
The truth, not my truth, the truth.
Yep. Thank you.